Welcome back to Biz Talk, everyone. I am your host, Rachel Weaver, and I am thrilled to have with me today the beautiful Noura Al-Masri. Noura, it's such an honor and pleasure to have you. Noura is an enrolled agent with the IRS, the founder and CEO of Nourasbooks, and an international best-selling author. Noura, welcome to Biz Talk.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It's my honor to be here with you again today.
I am super excited to dive right in to a couple of questions for you in regards to nonprofit bookkeeping.
Awesome.
Yes. So in nonprofit bookkeeping, how do you recommend implementing fund accounting to ensure transparency and compliance with donor restrictions?
So the first thing every nonprofit leader should know that bookkeeping is really a compliance work is required. It's not up to your budget. You really have to implement. And we say that for business, you have to bookkeeping first, but for nonprofit, it's even more critical to do that, because one of the requirements by the IRS is to actually report each account, like each program, on its own. So let's say you have an emergency program to provide relief for an area that has a disaster. That's a program on itself. So you should record income and expenses separately. So it's going to be from overall thing, but it's going to be separate. A lot of people I've seen, they do not do that separately. You have to do this because this is a requirement. You're going to have to report that when you do your tax return, information tax return, which is $990 for nonprofit. So that's information are required. And if you do not put these in order in that detail, you won't be able to have an accurate return. And you would actually open yourself to audits. So you don't want to do that. You want to avoid that. You want to make sure you actually do bookkeeping as it's required. You want to start with actually chart of accounts. Your chart of accounts has to set right so you can report each and every program the way it's supposed to be set.
Very good. Yeah, so important, and so many people don't know about it. That's why it's important to have that accountant.
Yes.
So nonprofits often deal with restricted funds. What strategies do you employ to accurately track and report on the maintaining financial clarity?
So in addition to the software you're using for bookkeeping, hopefully you're using a software that you can have additional files, like it can be Excel, it can be any other form that you can work with, but mostly people use Excel, and can be, it's easier to track each and every restricted fund. And you will be able to reconcile that information to your books, like on the software that you're using. So you can verify this, everything is correct, easy to run the reports, verify everything is going well between your extra files and your main file. So that's how I recommend doing it, like one by one, because sometimes like it can be coming from donors, like which is like individual donors, and sometimes can come from grants. And actually, if, for example, you have federal grant, that might have extra requirement. They have their own forms. They want you to really make sure you report. So sometimes you have to do an adjustment to make sure what you're reporting is actually easy to feed into the reports that you're required to submit.
Great. Such good information to have. So nonprofit bookkeeping is subject to various compliance standards. How do you navigate the complexities of regulatory requirements and reporting obligations to ensure your clients maintain a strong financial standing and adhere to legal standards? There's just so much.
Yes. Yes, and the thing with that is always changing, and each state is different. So I always recommend to my clients, don't only engage with me on just bookkeeping. You want to enroll in compliance work, because with this, bookkeeping plus compliance, this is the minimum I recommend for nonprofits. I will be able to notify you and do the research for your state, for your case, for your nonprofit. Because yeah, we're saying nonprofit, but a lot of nonprofits, a lot of kind and like what they are doing. So a lot of different areas. So my guideline usually is the IRS for the federal, right? So I always have to dig in, see, sometimes I have to call in, and a lot of things are not clear. So what we do is like just do as much as we are able to understand and translate. So for me, it's easier to translate because I'm an enrolled agency. Like tax is tax language is my language, but a lot of people like will find it hard to actually translate. If like the clients try to do these stuff on their own, most of the time they make a lot of mistakes. I had a lot of people calling me saying, we did every mistake on the book. Like we listened to your videos and we see that we did every single mistakes. And a lot of people unfortunately lose their exempt status because a lot of things, because one of the area where nonprofit can automatically losing their exempt status is actually not filing their tax return, the 990, for 3 consecutive years. But there's a lot of other areas as well they can lose it. One of them is not doing the record keeping and bookkeeping the way it's supposed to be done.
Wow, super important to know and understand for your nonprofits, especially because some of them think, well, we didn't get any donations this year, or we didn't get enough, so we don't have to comply. But really, that's not the case. So always follow the laws and rules. Such good information. So tell us, in the digital age, how do you leverage accounting software and technology to streamline nonprofit bookkeeping processes? And what specific features do you find most beneficial to nonprofit organization?
I always recommend to use the software. I recommend to my clients always QuickBooks, just because it's more user friendly. And I always recommend that they connect their bank statement, their bank account, their credit cards with the software, so it's much easier. And then I make sure like you don't open like so many bank accounts unless it's needed. It has to be justified. So make sure, because you don't want all these things feeding into your software unless you are bigger in size. But for smaller nonprofit, if you don't have like a different area of funding, like which is a huge, not like 10,000, this is you can still manage it with and the same bank account you have. So make sure you actually are using a service, because it's impossible with this technology and the rules as well to keep up with everything. And you might be doing something wrong, that you are actually overstating your income, for example. I see this a lot with QuickBooks and other softwares. For example, like people getting a loan, even for nonprofit, they get EIDL or any other stuff. Like they can still get a loan for nonprofit for anything, not only grants. And also, so they will have to pay that back. They record it as actually income while they have to pay back that loan. So it should be treated like a kind of credit card, because they have to pay it back. If you record that as fund coming, you have to report what did you do with this money. It's gonna show up as a fraud while it's not fraud. So you have to really be careful with technology. While it can be very, very helpful, it can actually because people get used to like, okay, add and sometimes like when you have to match transactions rather than adding them, then you actually making duplicates, not only with loan, even if you don't have loans, like just like having transactions where you have to match you add them. This can actually overestimate your funding, and then you will be questions, where did that money go?
Yes. Wow. Well, such great insight. Thank you so much for all this valuable information. As always, Noura, tell us, where can we find you?
Sure. So you can go to my website, nourasbooks.com/contact, and you can book a call with me on Zoom. So we get on Zoom and talk. And you can also get to my social media, including YouTube, all from the website. Everything is linked there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here with us today. We look forward to seeing you again, hopefully next week. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in to Biz Talk today. I am your host, Rachel Weaver, and we will see you again next week.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.